Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle. I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Michael Reed, as we call Bonnie Blue on this podcast.
That's right. Dude, did you see 2000 in one day? That's what she's going for. I broke down the numbers. That's like a dude every 43.6 seconds. I wouldn't even need that long. You know what I'm saying?
I understand that. But welcome to the Burgundy Zone, guys. The title of this episode is The Winning Window, and we have a guest here coming up here soon that you all know very well, or if you don't already, you should know.
You need to.
Yeah, and so that's coming up here down the pipeline. But before we get into our You Got Jokes segment that we're going to have later on down the line, wanted to get your input on this one with OTAs, recap, like standouts, and did you notice any differences from last year?
Any differences? Last year was such a drastic difference between the Rivera era and the Quinn era. Like last year, you saw everybody dancing, everybody was having a good time, really set the tone for the season. So I think that's why you probably heard more about like how insane it was, just like the atmosphere. But this year it was just kind of expected. I think this year, just knowing what you have in Jaden and then hearing people like my ex best friend Logan Paulson talk about him, like just like the way that he's going through progressions. Like Logan talked about how he literally went through a five read progression. And at times he, like I know at one point he threw an interception early on, but he was still making the correct read. He was still going through it, and like
Mhm.
it's just good to know that like a guy like that, like Jaden, I don't think you're going to see sophomore slump with Jaden like you did see from Stroud because Jaden is so advanced when it comes to the eyes and what his processing and stuff. And that's just such a relief to kind of hear and to kind of see and know, like with his natural abilities, yeah, obviously, dude's talented, but just the head stuff. And that's what you're really going to see kind of as he goes on in his career is just get better and better.
Yeah, and obviously the big difference is that Terry McLaurin isn't there, which
Yeah,
I think personally says a lot, just overall in the sense that because last year was a new regime, new coaching staff, you didn't know if like you were their guy, right? But at this point, I think it's very that Terry is comfortable with where he's at, and that's why he's able to do that
yeah,
and being able to sit out, right? And he obviously deserves the ability to. He's going to get a contract extension, and we're going to get into that next. But I think overall, it's like how many people, the percentage of players that did show up. And I think it's very telling that two of the players that they traded for did not show up. And look, Laramie Tunsil didn't do this at Houston. It's kind of, it makes sense that he doesn't show up. He's a veteran, and they can't even be in pads. We talked
right,
about this with Bram Weinstein when he kind of talked about saying, you can't see anything from Josh Connerly. They don't have pads on. There's no
right,
contact. So really, it's just about technique and all that. And can you honestly say that Tunsil really needs to be there for that? Basically,
right,
what you would need Tunsil to be there for is just the affirmation that the culture is still being built well, right? Like that's literally
right,
the only reason why you'd want him there.
right,
Lattimore, though, is a different story,
yeah,
just based on how last year went, right? And
right.
I think that would probably be the big difference here in everything. I know last year was the first time that we saw them do the running through the pads on the ground, running through the drill, and we all were like, "What is going on? What is this? This looks
Hmm.
awesome. They're having a lot of fun, right?" But I think it says a lot that Debo Samuel was like leading the wide receiver drills and he showed up. I
Yeah.
think that says a lot, not only about Debo, but just about the culture that is being built. And that's kind of the essence of why people would be upset with Lattimore and Tunsil not being there, is because you kind of understand that this new culture is being built and it kind of gives you glimpses of what used to be with Washington, like with Chase Young not showing up, that
Right.
kind of superstar status. But at the end all
But
be all, you can't really be mad at Tunsil.
yeah, and of the new three big acquisitions this offseason, or not offseason, just over the last however many months, because you got to include Lattimore in that. It's and I'm going to make something out of nothing because I do ultimately think that it's nothing because like I don't blame Tunsil Lattimore. I'm a little more like you should be there, but Tunsil, like you talked about, I don't really get it. But like seeing Debo come here from San Francisco, who's been so successful, and seeing those guys come from New Orleans and Houston, who've been kind of at the bottom tier, that's probably just a coincidence. Obviously, I'm making something out of complete nothing and just pulling something out of my ass so we can talk a little bit and so I can hear my own voice. But That's that's one way you look at it. Debo wants to come here and he wants to be part of this team. He wants to play with Jaden, and I think you love to see that. You love to hear that. But like you talked about, I mean, even Lattimore, I know you would like to see him there, but like, does it necessarily really matter? I mean, we saw Emmanuel Forbes tear it up during OTAs his rookie year because there was no pads. As soon as pads got put on, it was a different ball game. I mean, granted, I mean, mainly that was AJ Brown, but it was you're not going to get too much out of it, but still, you would like them to be there.
Yeah, because the big thing about OTAs is like typically the players that know the plays that are being played, especially on defense, it's easy for you to cheat on things. Knowing the
Yeah.
kind of offensive play that's coming out to you, you're used to it. Like if the scout team guys, like they'll typically be able to know what plays coming. They can jump things, make it look good. With like Trey Amos, with Bram talking about how that guy looks like a hit, and he's saying that he's intercepted passes, getting some pass breakups. It kind of tells you that this is a dude that doesn't know what's coming to him, but he's still able to get up there and make something happen, which I would say is you could say has a similarity to Emmanuel Forbes, of course. But I think with this coaching staff in particular, it's a different animal in what you're possibly getting at a Trey Amos. But I wanted to get into Terry's contract extension because that is going to be coming. I know everyone has talked. The obvious is that it's going to be similar to the Sam Cosmi deal, where it's close to training camp. That's when they get it done. I know JP Finley tweeted that out. My only point being is that that's an obvious take. Like, yeah, that should be your prediction based on the history of this team. You don't know when it's going to happen, but you'd like it to be. We've asked this question before, and what you think the contract extension should be worth and how many years
For Cosme?
for Terry McLaurin.
Oh, for Terry McLaurin. I thought I was like Cosme. Hell yeah, extending him again. Sick. No, Terry. It really depends, man. I don't know shit about contracts. I don't know anything about numbers. None of it's my money. I don't care. I said the guy wants 50 mil a year. I say give him 50 mil a year. No, I'm just kidding. I would imagine that the numbers I've seen floated are like 30 to 32 or something mil a year, right? That's kind of and he deserves it after last year. I mean, look at what he did. The
I think
dude finally
DK's
got a
getting
quarterback
I
and look
think
at how he
DK's
produced.
getting 33, 34 mil per year. And so I
Terry's
think
better than
that's
DK. Terry
yeah.
would shit on DK if they were on the same team. And I'm sorry to say that, but he would. DK is also one of the most scary dudes of all time, though. Like, I don't know. It's crazy that he's a wide receiver. That dude would dog you, Kyle. He would destroy you.
Yeah, getting your ass kicked by a dude with a nose
Dude,
piercing,
he could do whatever
another
he wanted
level.
to you. He would do
Whatever.
whatever he wanted to you.
I'm sure he would, dude.
He could
But
do anything to you.
for me personally, like my whole point is like with Terry, I just want the contract extension years to be in a place where Terry basically has to retire here. You know, like I want Terry to stay at the one team. I don't want him to leave. And that's the one player you can say that we talked about for so many times saying, just give him a quarterback and watch what he does. He continues to show up. He doesn't make any issues. He's not off the field drama. He's not George Pickens on the sidelines, getting into fights, throwing the temper tantrum because he's not getting the ball thrown to him. If anybody had the excuse of saying that his surrounding and environment was not good enough for him and it was making him angry, it was Terry McLaurin. You never saw that. And all he did was elevate his work and his production when he did get met with that quarterback and that offense. And that's somebody I don't want ever to walk out of that building, man. And I have full confidence they're going to get something done. They're very smart people. They know that Terry is 29, 30 at this point, and so it's going to be hard for him to get huge contract money probably in his next contract, but you also don't want to kneecap anybody. And now we are
Right.
joined by our guest for this episode, Mr. Scott Hartley from the UK, the 1 Point Safety Show,
Fan
announced
of
the
the year.
draft.
He's he's fan of the year.
He is fan of the year in the UK. Announced the draft pick for Kane Medrano there in Green Bay. Without further ado, one of our good friends that we've hung out with on countless times and love this guy to death. Scott, how are you doing, man?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on, Kyle. Hello, Reed. How you doing, boys? You all right?
Yeah,
I'm
it's
a lot better
weird.
now that you're here, dude.
Yeah, it's weird
Thank you.
talking to you now that you have celebrity status,
Well,
Scott.
that's it. The check's in the mail, I suppose, Kyle. Yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah, I was about to say, what do they do? Do they sell you or do they actually mail a check?
Yeah, PayPal's my preferred option of
Okay,
choice,
yeah,
but
there
no,
you go.
So I
it's all
wanted
good, man.
before we get in like fan questions and everything, Scott, I wanted to ask you about your time at the draft. Because like it was hard. I know it was hard for you because you were kind of told you're going to get a later round draft pick, but you didn't know which one based on if they traded or anything like that, and just how that process was.
Yeah, no idea. It was brilliant. I mean, for 4 days, it was fantastic to meet all the other international fans of the year as well. A lot of them from Australia, a lot of them from the UK, lots of Germans as well. It's dead good fun to meet all the other fans as well. From a team perspective, I went in there quite blind, no idea of what was going on. I had no itinerary, nothing. I literally was hopping on a plane thinking, well, okay, this is interesting. So, from a team point of view, that way, unfortunately, it was quite poorly handled. But when I arrived, the team rep who was there was amazing. I can't thank her enough. She was absolutely fantastic. We got to meet Roger Goodell, do a Q&A session with him for quite a while. A lot of his answers were very political. He did it in a politician-y type way. And some of the questions were quite poor, like, are the Lions going to come to Germany next year? Like, he's not going to answer you that question
Did
when
you
I'm
ask him about Israel Palestine?
I would like to. Yeah. What's your thoughts on the war in
Yeah.
Ukraine? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. How do you feel about the Zelensky Putin situation?
Should have done that.
Good men playing
The,
women's sports,
yeah, exactly. What's your
let's get
what's
on
your
this.
thoughts? What's your thoughts on trans rights? Yeah, exactly. We could have gone into it, but no. It was very good in that respect. Awesome to kind of see the draft as a whole and understand exactly how it all unfolds. I know that we got told behind the scenes that the Chargers were very close to trading their first round pick, and they left it almost with their 36 seconds to go before they finally picked. So with
Damn.
an unnamed team. So yeah, it was fantastic in that respect. I didn't have a clue which pick I was going to do. Obviously, very late. A lot of people were doing fourth round picks, so I was kind of sitting there at 128 thinking, could be me. I'm not sure. And then 128 passed, and I was thinking, right, well, it's kind of got to be the next one.
Mm.
So at 205, yeah, I picked Kane Madrano, and I have his pick cards right here.
Hell yeah. Do they
So
do they
yeah,
write the enunciation
yeah,
on it
yeah,
or
yes, they do. Yeah, so you
pronunciation or
can
something?
you can see it there at the bottom.
Heck,
I'll hold it up to
dude,
there. So
if he ends up being the next Fred Warner that Adam Peters has selected, you got a little slice of history there, brother.
hey, I know, man. The best part for me of the whole experience really was, it was being back with fans who I knew, which was great. We had a lot of the hog farmers there, the Commandalorians. LJ was there. It was really, really good fun in that respect. Good people to hang out with for the first 2 days. Was night one really was awesome when we got to pick 29. With Josh Connolly Jr. I was told I could go backstage with pick 27. I sat out the back. Obviously, no phone. You're not allowed any phones at all. And went into this room where they print the jersey, and the jersey gets handed to the commissioner.
Yeah.
So all the number one Washington jerseys were there, several of them, and it was like, right, put this on the press. And if we pick anyone who's in the green room, then you can give it on stage to the commissioner before he gives it to the prospect. So I was kind of thinking to myself, wow, this would be cool if we do pick someone who is here. But I
Yeah.
looked at who was left, and it was like Jalen Milroe. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And a few, and a few others who I was like, no, that's not there. But when you're going round, you go past the players like where the prospects are waiting. So I'm literally walking through the green room in decked out in commander's gear, and Hairstare, he went to the Bills, or Hairston, he was like, give me a dab up. I think he was dabbing everyone up that night. So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. I mean, he went at pick 30.
No.
And
You're
then
you're lucky that you've been to like DC and like this area a couple
mhm.
times at least, because that they sent you to Green Bay, Wisconsin. What the
Wow.
hell
I
is there to
mean,
do in Green Bay,
there is
Wisconsin?
absolutely nothing.
The
Breakfast's
neighborhood.
amazing, and
Did
the
you go egg
people.
houses, toilet
Yeah,
TP houses or
the,
something?
the, the people are amazing. I'll give you that. They are absolutely
Stupid.
wonderful,
Yeah.
Wonderful, and really welcoming people who are local. It seemed like every person decided to do Uber, to make a bit of bank, which I get that. I
Dude, I would
understand
be doing,
why.
yeah, if they came to my little town, I'd be like, fucking, I'm making bread
And
doing
then it's
Uber.
just when you sat there waiting for them to pick, I was like, right, we're going to pick. The guy was telling me in his earpiece, he said, this is just a farce. And I was like, okay. He said, we will know when they've picked the pick. It'll be a 4 second delay from the time it comes through on my earpiece to the time they've put the phone down with the team. So I knew at 7 minutes, 26 seconds, or whatever, still on the clock, that we'd picked Josh Connolly. but I obviously couldn't
Yeah.
tell anybody. And then he said, right, watch this. It'll go all the way down to about 2 minutes. And sure enough, 1 minute 32 left on the clock. It comes up, the pick is in. And then he's like, right, now we've got 4 minutes, and then the commissioner will hit the stage. But what I didn't know, and it's pretty cool, is there's a lady who sat there and she presses a button the minute like the commissioner's first footstep hits the stage. And that then tweets out to Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter, all them people, and they will then tweet automatically and say, oh yeah, they're picking this. So it makes
Oh, wow.
everybody who's looking on Twitter look like they're in the know when they're actually not.
Oh, damn, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I was like,
I
oh,
was
this is
always
pretty
wondering.
cool.
I was like, hey, they're supposed to stop leaks. How are these people always getting it like right
Exactly.
before?
I didn't know that either. So it's always like it looks as if Rap Sheet and that have got it in maybe a minute before everybody else knows. But what was really cool is he sat there and said, in real terms now, although you didn't get to go and hand this jersey out, for the last 10 minutes you've been the only fan in the world who knew that who we picked.
Damn.
Yeah,
And I was like, actually, yeah. I was like, actually, yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
I wonder how often that happens when when they pick somebody that like a fan doesn't want, when they were to tell you earlier, if some like a fan was ever just like, what the fuck? Why the hell would we take it? God damn it!
It would be
Everybody
it would be crazy like to get
Darius
there. But
Hayward Bay.
Yeah, I
Everybody's
could.
like, God damn it!
I could have told you that a lot of those big, like that's just a mouthpiece for the NFL overall, and obviously there's a feeder, and the feeder is not going to be all 32 teams. There is definitely a feeding aspect to it, and that's what you definitely learned in Green Bay, Scott. I tweeted it when they announced that you were the UK Fan of the Year. I was like, it couldn't have happened to a better guy.
Thank you. I
To be
appreciate
brutally
that,
honest
honestly.
with you, I know what you do for work and everything, and it was awesome to see you guys, because you guys do so much, being able to come over here and watch football. But to get over a fluffing you up, I know that was an awesome time for you. That was something you'll never forget. Your kids will never forget. I'm sure you still have the video at your house.
1 second. Also, shout out to you too for bringing Andy with you.
Yeah.
That's
special
cool
ed.
shit. Kyle would never do that for me. Kyle would say, "Read your staying home."
Yeah, that's exactly what I would do. You're absolutely right about it.
Because I would probably fake anyway.
Yeah, I know.
Right before I'd be like, I can't come. Where it goes.
And if you haven't seen it, it's on the latest Commanders Log episode.
Yep.
So I was quite chuffed. I got an email from the team this week saying just watch the Commanders Log this week because we know you didn't get your spot. And I was like, okay, because as is always, all of our picks are always on commercial break.
Yep.
What we found this year was all the UK fans who won, every single one of our picks were on commercial.
Really?
Which is
Bit of a
and every
conspiracy
single
right there.
no, absolutely, because they
That's
think that
100%
they've won over here, and they know that this area is done. But every Australian got their pick done, every German got their pick done.
We let the Germans do it. Those cocky guys who act like they don't have a history.
Hey, we thought that was a Snyder issue, but obviously it's not.
No, it's not. No.
Something.
Turns out it's a UK issue. What the hell?
I think they just thought that they've conquered this market
It's
over
already
here.
been-
I really think
true.
that's what it is.
Yeah. For
That
sure.
they don't
Especially
really
because it's a business. You have the Irish fan from the Steelers, Tom. He read it in Irish, and obviously he was, it was all about Ireland for them because that's the latest game they've got this year. And then it was all about Australia next year. So the Rams fan of the year, and it's a Rams home game, is an Australian guy. No conspiracy there, but they went live, whereas every UK one was on breaks.
They had an Irish guy read the Steelers pick. I didn't see the Steelers pick.
Yeah,
That's so
called Tom.
funny.
He's a good guy, actually, really nice guy.
Was it? And then here we go. We have the Steelers. The Steelers are going to be picking this lad over here. He's a great
That's
guy.
pretty good Irish. That's pretty good
I
Irish
thought that was
accent.
Scottish.
But he read
Scottish at all. It's a little bit of spud and potatoes, Kyle.
he read it in Irish, to be fair. So
He read it in. Oh wow.
In actual Irish, yeah. I was like, good for you, man.
Everybody said, "What the hell did he say?" What
Yeah,
are you talking
I
about?
was like that.
Yeah.
What?
I really hope that you asked. If I would have told you, I would have told you to ask Goodell about the year that the Robert Griffin III year, where they gave us that huge fine when there wasn't any written rules in it, and to say, how come that happened? And
That would have went over well.
how much
yeah.
input did
Hartley-
Mara have on it?
Yeah.
Just stick
Hartley
it to him a
wouldn't
little
have been
bit.
executed for that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
One thing
you
that-
ask him something like that, they shoot him.
One thing that was quite good is we've got to have a photo with him and Scouse being Scouse.
Yeah.
He got up on stage and he said, "Oh, just off the cuff." He just looked at Goodell and said, "I bet you're glad Snyder's gone now." And he just
No, he
looked at
said
him and
that.
yeah,
Hell yeah.
he just looked at him and went, "No comment." But you
That's
could
what he
see he
said.
was
Oh
smiling. Yeah,
yeah.
you could
No
see he was
comment always
smiling. I
means
was
though, for
like
sure.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
But I'm sure he's a good lad. As much as everyone likes to give Goodell crap, I'm sure he is cool.
Dude, he's look at what the
Yeah.
NFL's doing compared to all the other sports. The
Yes, a
dude knows
couple
what
of
he's
guys
doing.
used to work
Exactly.
for me at Noodles a Company. One of them, I think, dated Roger Goodell's niece, and he talked about how they were a wild family. They got loads of money. But to
Dude, the
bring this
Goodells,
back
I
to
don't believe that for a second.
the Commanders, we do have a lot of
Hmm.
fan questions submitted, and for
Brilliant.
some reason, Hartley knew he was coming on here and wanted to submit one himself. So we'll
It's
force
okay.
him to have to answer it. I guess he wanted to answer it himself. But this one is from James Bonato, or Bill Bonato, as he likes to say. He messaged us on IG, and he's an awesome guy who's been following us for a little bit. His question is, Scott, what are the qualities of a good punt returner that a kick returner doesn't have, and vice versa? Which leads me to ask if we should be comfortable with what we have at those positions.
Yeah, punt. The difference between probable kick return and punt return is in kick returns you're not expecting to go very far. Punt returns you should be expecting to go a little bit further. It's about how you handle the ball and then can you get a ball that's not always going to be in place. It's going to be dotted around. It may be a lower kick. It may be a higher kick. So ball control and hand placement and speed is a key aspect to punt returning. Almost as if you were a fullback in rugby union is what I would lacing it to, because you've got to have good hands and be able to catch the ball, and then speed getting off as well. And do I think we've got it? Jalen Lane, I think, is going to be the best punt returner we have in the way. He's definitely out of this draft.
Hmm.
He's going to be the best punt returner we've had for a long time. I didn't like seeing Dax Milne just constantly taking a knee. Even Crowder towards the end couldn't really do a lot. Austin Eckler as well was returning kicks for a bit last year. And so was Luke McCaffrey. So, yeah, do I think there's going to be a bit of a difference between how they're going to go with it this year? I think Jalen Lane might return both. He might not be just a punt return. He might do kicks as well. I'm not sure on that one.
Yeah, so especially now, Bill, it's completely different because of the kick return rules and how they've been adjusted, where we've heard it compared to almost like a run play. So for kick return, you definitely want speed, right? But what's most important is the vision and being able to read the blocks and get through it. And specifically on kick return, whenever you see a guy going up, kind of like Reed on Saturdays, going and hitting the hole, you don't
Yeah.
want him to be almost reserved in that, and oh, am I going to get hit here? Some of the best guys just hit the hole at 100%, like I do, and that way there is no reaction from the defender. You're just fighting through the hole and you're going. And so it's
Yeah.
kind of a
Doesn't
different.
matter if the guy's conscious or not. You're just fighting through that
And
hole.
so
Yeah.
it's kind of different now because of the blockers that are set up for you in the kick return aspect. You want that vision, and that's why the running back position is probably the best bet for you, because they have that natural vision, seeing blocks, coming off of them, and knowing where to hit and where. Punt return is a little bit different, because with punt return, Scott kind of talked about it with the agility and the speed. Typically, you have those gunners, and those gunners are crashing down in you hard. You have to be able to see the catch through, which is objective number one. Objective number one is to catch the football and then be able to make that first move in order for you to get into open space. And that's where that flat out speed really helps you, being able to get around the edge once you're able to suck that gunner in, to be able to get back outside, because they do have the thicker guys out there, especially on punt. You got to be able to get around it, get to the outside, be able to go through. Just like with kick return, just a little bit, there's a lot of similarities. But I am very confident in what we have, because the way that they're going about it with Austin Eckler currently being the kick returner, that's the very good slot for him to be in. Maybe even Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt to begin this season, if he hasn't earned those starting reps immediately. That's something that he could really prove himself to show fruitful in, right? Brian Mitchell, running back, right, was able to be on special teams to be a huge kick returner and punt returner for this football team. I think Krosky is another guy you could dial in there. But Jalen Lane, I think at punt return, is going to be the difference maker, specifically because of the speed. Running a 4.43, 11-foot broad jump just speaks to the explosion. I think he had 11.1 vert, and just speaks to his explosion. That first step explosion is very critical on punt return, and we've seen that before with other guys. And so I think I am very confident in what we have and being able to flip the field for the offense, making it easier on them to have a shorter field, possibly even to getting some extra points for us.
Did you say an 11-foot 1-inch vertical jump?
Yeah.
Imagine him jumping over a basketball hoop. That'd be crazy.
Well, it's not. That's not where his
I'm
feet.
joking, Kyle. I was just talking about the air between the feet and the
Yeah, I
ground.
know.
But no, punt returners, dude. First of all, we've all seen the clips. To be a punt returner, you have to have balls. You have to have big balls. We've seen
Yeah,
Troy
massive.
Polamalu knock guys out. Like, there's rules against it. People still get hit all the time. You got to be decisive. You got to just put your foot in the ground and go. You got to wait for a fair catch fast. You got to be very decisive, and you have to thrive in chaos, kind of as a punt returner, I'd say, because there's so many guys flying around. Kyle's used to that. There's so many bunches of people. You got to be able to find a hole. You got to be able to try to make something happen. So it is different. That's why you see punt returners kind of dance around more. A lot of kick returners, successful ones these days, especially, are kind of more south. They're just trying to get up there and
Right.
get as many yards as possible. So there is a difference, but yeah, you got to feel confident with Jalen Lane. I think he was the best return man in this class, and like you talked about, just the ability that he has running that 4.3 40, and being as athletic as he is, I think that he's proven that he can be a dangerous weapon in that game.
Yeah.
People don't watch specials, do they? And I mean, for me, last year when I watched Tress Way warming up, like kicking punts, it is crazy. Like when you're watching them come down at all different spiraling angles, I
Dude,
was like,
yeah,
I
what
have
the
no
hell? Like,
idea how you are actually
I'm
catching this ball.
I know they get paid a lot, so like it shouldn't happen. But like I'm surprised muffs don't happen more, like as more because it's
Yeah.
so different. Punters are so good these days at being able to make the ball do different things, and it's just insane.
Yeah, and I think Tress has even talked about that before, at being able to get the trajectory right to allow the gunners to be able to collapse on it a lot more to get those fair catches, especially if you're kicking to a guy like Turbin
Yeah.
out in Dallas, where he's just an absolute weapon. And hopefully that's what Jalen Lane will provide for us, Bill. Before we get into the next question, real quick, Catherine and I, we are co-teaching the youth ministry at our church, and we started that today. And we're doing 3rd through 5th graders. And today was our first day, so we were like kind of shadowing, and it was a lot of fun. It's going to be it made me laugh a lot because at the end we gave them like a crossword puzzle that they have to circle each word and everything like that. And so they're doing their thing, they're going, and one of the kids says, "Hey, I found sus." He's a 3rd grader, and he's like, "I found sus," and I was like, "What?" And Catherine just looked at me, and I just started laughing. I was like, "What is a 3rd grader doing talking about knowing what sus is?" And he even
Brother.
wrote it. He even wrote it down next to the rest of the words and crossed it out that he found
Yeah.
it.
You're like, I know which one of you has unlimited YouTube views
Yeah.
in the day, and I know which one, or has an older brother.
So, dude, these
Yeah.
kids nowadays, man, you guys got to stop letting them get on these tablets.
Oh, dude, but think about the stuff we were saying when we were in
I
elementary
know.
school. I had a brother, we said way worse.
The
We
Stone
would say the
Cold
real
Steve,
word for
we
sus.
were doing the triple suck
we would
it,
say
you
the,
know?
we
Yeah.
would say the real one that starts with an F for sus, you know?
Yeah, it's true.
You know what I mean?
Reed, this one is from our boy Alad from Wales. Thank you, Alad. I wish you were coming for week 1, brother. It'd be good to see you again. His question is, Reed, who do you think will be Jaden Daniels' go-to guy this year? Is it going to be Terry again, or does someone else break out with that deep connection?
I think the homer in me and the fan in me just what the best guy on the team, which is Terry McLaurin. I know he kind of relied on Zach Ertz a lot, which was huge having that tight end, that safety blanket, but I still think Terry is the go-to, the guy that you want to feed the ball to, the guy that you really need to get the ball in the hands of to get the offense going. So I'm gonna go with the generic answer, and I'm gonna say Terry just because I really think that it's gonna be him again.
So I'm gonna be even more generic, Alad, in the sense that early on in the season last year, you could say it was Noah Brown. Once he got signed
That's where I
here,
was
Yeah,
going.
against the Giants in week
yeah,
2 and
he
stuff.
was
It was
crucial down the stretch for Washington. Jaden really went down there. Now adding Debo Samuel, you draft Jalen Lane. You obviously brought back Noah Brown, KJ Osborne. You got Zach Ertz there, of course. I don't think it's going to be one solidified guy. I think it's just going to be based on the matchup that's provided, and that he's going to hit the guys that he needs to when it is done. So, like, I wish I could say it's a stamp going to be one guy in particular, but I think that that's the kind of genius with Jaden Daniels, where the VR software allows him to be able to go where the defense dictates where to go, not to force things too much. And that's what makes the offense really such a crazy X weapon, because you can't just dial in on one player, because Jaden will find that outlet that you can't defend against. And it doesn't matter who it is, there's going to be somebody there to take the weight. Like Jameson Crowder last year wasn't activated until ass end of the season, and then he just blows the doors off of the Eagles, right? And like you're saying,
yeah,
Jameson Crowder has no business producing in that sort of way, but he did. And that a lot of that has to do with the quarterback position. So I think for the most part, just me speaking, I'm not trying to duck out of the question or anything like that. I just think that it's going to be anybody based on what the defense is providing. If they're allowing the cushion for Zach Ertz to work underneath, I think it's going to be Zach. What do you think? What do you think, Scott?
So real fast, kind of like you, Kyle, he's going to be polyamorous with a bunch of guys. He's just going to spread the love to all these guys, and he's not just going to lock down with one. He's going to have a plethora of guys.
I would have said Noah Brown is where I was going with because of the way that he was the starter last season. But I completely agree with your point. I don't think there's one specific person that it's going to be. Ideally, yeah, you'd like it to be Terry in a contract year, hopefully with a new contract. I'm sure we'll get into that. But more weapons for Jaden this year with Debo coming onto the team, with Jalen Lane coming onto the team, giving you what I believe will be a better deep threat with, well, probably the same deep threat as De'Ami Brown did, but with better hands. And we don't know what we've got with others in there. I mean, there's like Michael Gallup, is still there. We've also got Luke McCaffrey, who needs to step up a bit more. What's going to happen with Ben Sinnott? I just think the ball is going to get shared around, and sometimes that's what you want when you're a wide receiver as well. You don't necessarily. Everyone wants to be that number one guy, but this isn't Dallas, and they don't just have one receiver. Like it's always been CeeDee Lamb over there, whereas here I think it'll get shared around.
Yeah, and that's like one thing that we talked about, like during the playoff run, like what this team's strength is the actual team itself. And we kind of talked about how it's almost reminiscent of the Nationals World Series run, where it seemed like in those playoffs, somebody new was balling out. You know, it wasn't like the same player over and over again. Somebody else was having a great game, which really helped them to be able to get to the World Series. And that's what it was like last year. And so you want to replicate that for Washington, where like Zach Ertz has that game, but then Terry McLaurin goes off against Detroit, right? De'Ami Brown really produces in some breath in the 2 touchdowns against Tampa, right? Like that's something that you want to replicate. And that's where it almost makes it indefensible as an offense because you can't dial in on anything. It doesn't matter what you do. There's always something that's going to be able to be a pin in the backside. And that's what really is Washington's strength. And I think that Cliff Kingsbury and company are really going to press the point on. Now, Scott, the next question that we have is, this one's from Command D's Nuts. Thank you, Michael. My question is, out of the following players who had the biggest impact this season, who has the biggest impact this season and why? Ben Sinnott, Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Jordan McGee, Dom Hampton, Javonte John Baptiste, or Trey Amos?
I'm going to. Oh, that's a tough one. It's for me. It's either Trey Amos but I'm going to go Jordan McGee. I think Jordan McGee has a bigger impact this year. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think he's going to come in as that third in the box linebacker. He could potentially even play I don't know. I don't now. Now I'm questioning myself. Trey Amos, yeah, maybe outside corner Trey Amos coming in. I think that's probably the best shout out of there. I want it to be someone like Ben Sinnott or Luke McCaffrey. I just don't know how much time they're going to get on the field, and that's a real problem for them, unfortunately. I just think they're going to probably struggle to get game time. But I think they do really rate McGee highly out of Temple, so I think he's going to have quite a few. It'll be interesting training camp battle with him there as well. But you're nailed on to have Luvu and Bobby Wagner starting. I just don't know what they're going to do at safety. That's my biggest thing is what are they going to do? I think someone like Tyler Owens, who we haven't mentioned, may even become a star.
Wait.
Sorry.
We have a question. No, you didn't know this, but we have a question pertaining to that, and you're right on the mark. Good job, pal. Reed, if you could do me a favor, if you could find Scott on Twitter and be able to DM him one of the jokes, we're gonna do the "You Got Joke" segment after this before we get into the rest of
only if you say Jamie, see if you can pull that up.
Jamie, see if you can pull that up for me.
Okay, I got it.
For me personally, this is a really good question, Mike, because a lot of the guys, like the second-year guys or rookies, right? Who's going to be the biggest impact here? You'd like to be able to say Trey Amos, just based on the cornerback room, allowing the flexibility of Mikey Sainristil. You don't know how that's going to ultimately play out between them. But I think that Scott is on to something in the sense that you don't know how many snaps these guys are truly going to get once we get into the season based on what we have with the roster or the depth chart in front of them. Like Zach Ertz, you could say with Ben Sinnott, like with Luke McCaffrey, we brought in Debo Samuel, we drafted Jalen Lane. You don't know how much run he's going to get. But what I'll say is, so in that breath, I think John Baptiste is probably one you could feel very comfortable with in saying, based on what's provided at the end. We saw a lot of the rotation base of the DNs last season. And so I think John Baptiste has the ability to be that, because the one thing he showed in college is a very persistent rusher. And if you're basing your defense on having that persistent rush rather than having the speed rush, I think that really plays into the hands of John Baptiste, where our DBs are not going to allow easy, quick throws. It's going to be that they're going to suffocate at the back end and then allow our DNs to be able to get home at that point. With that being said, I think it's going to be John Baptiste who actually might make a pretty good mark. And we also have to acknowledge it's not just sacks that he could really be pivotal in. It's also being able to limit the running game as well. And so maybe it is John Baptiste based on what happened at the end. And we don't know what's going to happen after this in terms of veterans or possible trades. What about you, Reed?
Hell yeah.
All right, cool. Now let's get into our You Got Jokes segment. Do you want to start this off with Scott first, or do you want to show him how it goes?
That doesn't matter to me. What do you think, Kyle?
All right, so you got one lined up already for yourself. If you can do that, and then send me the next one.
Okay. All right. Let's do it. Let's do an easy one for old me.
All right, let's do it.
Oh man, mine are mean. I'm gonna have to go last.
Come on,
actually.
All right, then have Scott go first. So Scott,
right,
you've heard this before, right?
No, I haven't. No.
All
right. Don't.
I sent you a DM. Don't read it first. Just read straight what it says.
Okay.
All right.
I will look at it now.
I'm really excited.
Just read straight what it says.
Yep.
In a moment of absent-mindedness the other day, Kyle accidentally sent everyone in his address book a naked picture of himself. It was very embarrassing for him and also cost a fortune in stamps.
Kyle, you freak. What did you do that for?
That's so stupid.
You spent so much money. Kyle, read this one and tell me if you know who this sounds like.
All right. Selena Gomez told reporters this week that her marriage to Benny Blanco has been over for some time. The key moment, she said, came when she realized that she was Selena Gomez and she was married to Benny Blanco.
Because he's so ugly?
I have no idea who that is.
Dude, he's weird looking. Google him. All right, here we go. This is a good one. Kyle says that he can't be racist because he doesn't see color. Someone should tell that to my dog because he can't see color and he hates black people. What the Kyle?
Dude.
Why did you send me that? It's my dog, dude. I put him up for adoption after that. I don't like him.
Send me the next one.
I don't think he's. Oh no, I'm gonna send this one to Scott.
Oh my gosh.
I can't believe that you said that, Kyle. I can't believe that you made me read that.
Did you know that 1 in 5 people are Hispanic? There's 5 people in my family, so it could be my mum, my dad, my older brother, me, or my younger brother, Juan Gutierrez.
My money's on Juan Gutierrez personally.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right, Kyle.
Maybe your mum just makes cracking enchiladas. I don't know. But,
maybe, yeah, she might.
Is this the last one?
For you.
All right.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams is the type of guy that shuts the fridge with his hips.
You know what I mean? Doesn't he just kind of seem like he does that? Or like he would lay on his stomach when talking on the phone, you know?
With his feet in the air.
Yeah. Like super adamant that you hang up first.
Yeah.
He's like, no, you. If there's a phone cord, he'd twirl it. No, you hang up first. All right, here we go. Kanye West's wife, Bianca Censori, was filmed again in public naked. I mean, seriously, I've seen her naked more than I've seen myself naked. I had to Google Bianca Censori clothed the other day. I never thought I'd want a woman to put clothes on so badly. This must be how Kyle feels when a woman is naked around him instead of a hot young Filipino twink. Kyle, what the hell? Why do you think that?
Is that the last one?
I mean, I got more. I can keep going, but yeah.
Yeah, no, let's keep going.
All right. Here we go. This one doesn't get last, but to me, it's funny.
Twink. Why the twink?
because that's what you like. There we go, Scott.
Okay. What year
So,
were the Storage Wars?
Let's start over. Start over.
What year were the Storage Wars?
does anybody know? I don't know when that took place. This one is one that I saw
Storage
on
war.
Facebook. I thought this one was funny, but it's not funny. It's really not. Kyle, go ahead.
What is the last name of your first grade teacher? Asks the two-step verification to my bank account. Jackpot, mutters my first grade teacher.
Because they're trying to rob you, and they say, "I know this security question." Do you get that one? Do you like
Yes, I
it?
do.
I think that's all of them for now, because the other ones are way too inappropriate.
The first one that I did wasn't, though.
What was the first one that you did? I don't remember.
Oh,
The
gosh.
Selena Gomez one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the one about the
Yeah.
dog.
The one about the dog is funny.
It is
It,
funny.
it is funny because dogs don't see color,
They don't.
and they're all racist assholes. I hate
Yes,
them.
it's true. Now, let's get into our next question by the Colonel.
I thought Hall was going to be here when I wrote that, so I thought I'd be able to get like the okay.
Yeah.
But he wasn't here. So.
Yeah, each time we have these, Hall's not here for some reason.
I know. God damn it.
But Scott, this question from the Colonel. We are in, quote, win now mode. In that narrow window where we have a superstar quarterback still on a rookie contract. How are we going to avoid losing that window the way the Cincinnati Bengals and San Francisco 49ers have lately?
I think we're doing a good job of not losing that window by building in the trenches and going against what are our biggest rivals, and going against what they have to try and combat that. So, hence Josh Connolly Jr. pick. We don't know how long Tunsil's going to be around with us. Probably 2, 3, 4 years, maybe at the most. Then you've got a ready-made replacement in Connolly to go across the left tackle, who could be there for another 10, 15 years. I think building in the trenches is key. I think what Adam Peters has shown this year, in this offseason, is that the fact that he's willing to give up draft capital to go and get elite, better players, and players that you look at on paper and say, wow, some of these players are superstars. Yes, some of them may be aging, like Debo, or Tunsil may have had a down year by all accounts in what Houston are saying. However, he's still a top 5 left tackle, and there wasn't any of them in the draft that we could get our hands on. So I think we're doing the right thing here, and to avoid that, and paying players early or when they need to be paid, I think is there. The culture makes a big difference here as well with Dan Quinn and what they're doing and being. I did notice in his press the other day, he said we're still the hunter rather than being hunted. That attitude of how he wants people to play helps, but I also think that they're willing to take care of their own. I mean, you look around and think, well, no one says a bad word about Peters in the league. No one says a bad word about DQ in the league. For me, that is going to get players to come to this team. And if we continue on the trajectory we're going at, and we are still a playoff contender, and we are still a Super Bowl contender, then players will still want to come here. So I don't think it's something that we're going to end up in the Cincinnati trap.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it, Colonel, pertains to the coaching staff. Right? Like, if you go back to New England and the dynasty that they obviously had a fluctuating, constantly having to replace coordinators that got hired somewhere else because everyone wanted a drink out of the fountain of winning from the New England Patriots, right? And with these other teams, you can make the argument that they have those same sort of similar things. But one common denominator is the connection between head coach and quarterback. Right? Obviously, with Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, you have there. You could say Brock Purdy, Kyle Shanahan, of course, and making sure that you have that sustaining relationship. But it comes down to being able to replenish with draft picks, in particular with the 49ers, finding Fred Warner, right? Getting Debo Samuel in the 3rd round, right? But that goes down to the coaching staff coaching these guys up in the sense that they can then become starters and possible superstars. And I think that's where keeping the coaching staff intact, especially this offseason, was very, very important. Coach Quinn kind of talked about it and opened up his press conference talking about being able to retain the coaching staff and how important it was and pivotal to what the successes of the football team down the road. That way they're getting consistent messaging all the way around. And it's until you kind of build up that consistent, frequent coaching that your players kind of take the role of the coaching in the sense that this is how we do things. It's not how we want to run that. This is what you're supposed to be doing on this rep. Until you get that is when you have that self kind of organism building for yourself where it generates into that Super Bowl contender type of team overall. And we're still trying to get there. But the most important position is obviously quarterback. And Scott talked about the trenches, being able to protect that quarterback and being able to run the football effectively, something that San Francisco has done very, very well. Regardless of who's at running back for them, they do well. They ball out. That's the most important thing, is winning in the trenches like Scott talked about. But I think overall from the organization down, it comes into being able to hit on those draft picks, then to the coaching staff, being able to get those draft picks up and running to the point where they can be contributors in a big productive way. And that's where we are at right now. As much as I would like to say it's purely based on the players that you have brought in here, I do think a lot of it has to do with being able to help these guys get to where they need to be.
I don't remember the question because sometimes, Kyle, I fall asleep when you talk and I don't remember it.
How do we avoid losing the Super Bowl window the way the Bengals and 49ers have?
I'm sorry, you're talking again.
You going to answer it?
We just keep being us. I got a good feeling about us.
All right, whatever. All right, now
Do
the
you like
next
that expert
question.
input? Did you like that?
Yeah, now the next
Thank
question is from Tim Towner in the Discord read. Did Jaden Daniels excel last year because Cliff kept it simple? If so, do you think Cliff Kingsbury will make a mistake and pile on a bunch of new stuff on his plate, which will lead to a sophomore slump?
No, I do think that Cliff really showed himself as an excellent play caller, but also he was adapting his playbook to Jaden Daniels' skill sets and what not giving him too much on his plate. He was making things for him, and that's kind of the way good teams work. The good offensive coordinator, good quarterbacks. And I don't think he'll give him too much. I don't think that there's anything Jaden can't really handle. I think that he proved that last year. Just like usually you would see young quarterbacks get overwhelmed in big pressure situations. Jaden was the exact opposite. Usually you'd see these guys just in general like struggle when they see the field. Jaden, the biggest struggles Jaden had last year was when he was dealing with a rib injury and we didn't score on 9 straight possessions. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's Jaden didn't really struggle anywhere, and he showed that he can take basically anything. And I don't think that you really can pile up too much on him. I mean, obviously you can, but like nobody's in their right mind's going to do that. So I don't think that you really got to worry about any of that with Jaden and Cliff.
Yeah, I'm not sure if
Plus, Cliff is a former quarterback. Cliff knows how young quarterbacks work, so he doesn't want to. He knows what could happen.
I don't think I don't think he kept it simple for Jaden last season based on the offense they were running. Maybe they leaned on him a lot with that read option, the quarterback option game. But I don't think that much is going to change, even if they put more on his plate. I think that they have provided in the trenches with Josh Connerly, with Laramie Tunsil, with Debo, that maybe you don't have to lean on Jaden so much in that sort of sense, right? That he has more cushion to be able to make those kind of mistakes, even if that were the case. I don't think the sophomore slump is going to be based on what Cliff Kingsbury is asking Jaden to do. I think Jaden at this point has proven to have that work ethic to be able to work through these type of things, and he has the quarterback room to help him in those sort of situations. And he also has a personal cheerleader in Marcus Mariota that possibly could even say to Cliff Kingsbury, I think you're doing a little bit too much. So there's a lot of checks and balances in place with this team where you feel comfortable, even if more was added, that they would still be able to have some sort of governor on that engine to say maybe we're revving up too much with Jaden right now. I don't think that's a thing. I really don't. I think that Jaden is going to be able to handle whatever's thrown at him. And at the end of the day, you always have that in the ace in the back pocket with his legs that you can always depend on to get things moving. But I don't think that anything was kept simple last season. It seemed like a lot of what we were doing was the opposite of that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kyle. And to Reed's point as well, I totally agree with you. The only thing that's going to give Jaden a sophomore slump is mental fatigue from Jaden Daniels. That's it. And I don't think he's built that way as a quarterback. You hear constantly about his work ethic, about the VR, about the time that he's in the facility, that he's learning. I think Cliff Kingsbury, as you said, Mike, knows not to put enough on him, not to put too much on him. He's not pretentious. He's not egotistical. He doesn't come across like that. And that's what leadership is there. I mean, that's why Mama's always there. You know what I mean? Everyone takes the piss and says, "Oh yeah, oh there's his mum again." She just wants him to get that bag. And when we're having to pay 70, 75 million a year for him, we'll cross that bridge because he is going to be worth it. This is when people say generational talent, I look at my wife's team who's a Jags follower, and she's looking at Trevor Lawrence every week saying, "What the hell's going on here? Why have we paid this guy so much money?" I look at Jaden Daniels in a completely different light and look at him and say, look at how he's transformed our franchise completely. And I think that Cliff is wary of that. He understands that. Clearly, he had offers in the off season, but to stay around and say, no, I've got unfinished business here, helps tremendously. And I don't think there's anything that you can put on Jaden Daniels that would make it more difficult. And it's about communication. And as you said before, coach, quarterback, having that communication, having that relationship is massive, because there's times where Jaden changed the play. We saw that on the sidelines. So I just don't think that this is going to be an issue moving forward at all.
Yeah,
It's real fast. It's crazy the generational quarterback thing. Like the only prospect that we can really remember that's ever like kind of lived up was Andrew Luck. Like
Andrew Luck and before that Peyton Manning, maybe.
Peyton, yeah, but even
that was it.
Even Peyton was questionable if he'd be the number one pick, like because of Ryan Leaf. So it was like, was he really generate? I mean, after obviously he was, but like really Elway is one. But him and Luck, other than that, Caleb, of course, there's still time for him to be great. But like Trevor Lawrence, like you hear it all the time. It's insane how often that does not work out.
No, it's just a way to hype up people, right? And
of course,
Joe Rogan News on Twitter or X, whatever. Posted like, who do you want to see Rogan interview that he hasn't interviewed yet? And my response was Jaden Daniels. I think that there are some separate storylines off the field that you could honestly, I would love to be able to see Joe interview Jaden Daniels and to kind of just give him more of a platform and for more people to love him and to get some more fans. I think Jaden Daniels on Rogan. That's why I'm advocating right now to have him on Joe Rogan. Right now is the best time to be able to do that since it's the off season. Now let's go to our next question in Discord. This is from Mr. Scott Hartley. Thank you, sir. I'm going to make you answer your own question. What's the biggest traded camp battle between safety or running back?
Yeah, for me, I think it's running back. I think Krosky Merritt comes in here and he could make some noise. Do I think he's going to be a starter? No, he's not going to be a starter over Brian Robinson, but he's got a good shot at making there. I think for me, the reason I put this question is I think both of these battles are going to be very interesting. Tyler Owens, I think is, whether he believes in flat earths or not, I mean, that's a different story altogether. But he had a 10 RAS score and he did well on specials last year. He came in and did a real good job for us. And there's others as well, other free agents that we've got in, undrafted free agents who are going to push these starting safeties hard. I don't think either of them, either Harris or Quan Martin, are guaranteed to start straight away. It's going to be a very tough training camp battle. That I'd just like to hear what you guys think on that one, or unless you think there's another room that's got a better training camp battle.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'll say that my coworker started advocating flat Earth to me one day, and I was just like, "What is going on here,
dude? You can't talk to those people. Think about the way that Japan would have had to attack Pearl Harbor in that scenario. Think about that. Exactly. They would have blown backwards across the world.
Well, like my whole thing is like, if you get a telescope, you could see other planets, and like you're saying that all the planets are basically round except for ours. Like, come on, man. Like, what the
a lot of them. So there's another one that not only flat Earth, but they also think that there's a dome over us that projects an image of the sun and moon.
Well, now we're getting into a different realm.
When did they build that? When did they have plastics and glass and stuff to build that? That's crazy.
How long has that been around? We're getting into a different realm in that breath, because you're saying
no, but I like it.
Yeah, it's insane. But I think the biggest training camp battle is probably going to be with safety. And the reason I say that is obviously they brought in Harris. To be one of the safeties there. You got Percy Butler kind of floating around in that breath. You got Jeremy Reeves as well. And then we talked about Tyler Owens. And so I think that that's going to be the battle that you really want to pay attention to see what goes on, in the sense that, do they want the run support? Because that's one area that Percy Butler lacked in last season. If we go back to that first Philadelphia Eagles game where Percy Butler completely whiffs on Saquon Barkley when he rips open that huge touchdown, what is going to be the emphasis? Because you as a safety, you have to be the last line of defense. You have to be a good tackler, because without you, it's just wide open at that point. And that's my biggest concern going forward. What do you think, Scott? I mean, Reed,
Yeah.
my bad. My bad.
No, both of them. I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, I think to us fans, a lot of fans will probably say that they want to see running back because people, for whatever reason, have kind of written B-Rob off. I don't think that's the case. He struggled for a little stretch, but other than that, B-Rob's been good. They have a lot of mouths to feed. Anytime you have Jaden Daniels, the threat of the run, it's going to open things up. So I like having Eckler, B-Rob, and Ja'Cory back there. I think could be fine. Safety for me, you got to replace Jeremy Chin. Jeremy Chin did play well last year. There was time every game it was like, damn, Chin made that play, Chin hit that, damn, Chin tipped that pass, Chin did like he was all over the place. He really was, and I know he also had some downtime or some down plays, but he was a difference maker in a sense. So can you get that? I mean, Tyler Owens, we talked about that. He's the only other safety to come out really that's had a similar physical profile to Jeremy Chin in that sense. So that could you get that? I don't know. I do like Quan, but also some of the guys they brought in. But competition's never a bad thing. I think I'm excited for it.
Yeah, now
so I think safety is the biggest.
To keep it in that same room, this question from Deluxe, way too early question. Who gets more playing time on defense, Reed, Tyler Owens or Percy Butler?
Ooh.
I want to say Tyler Owens.
Yeah,
I
me
want
too.
to. I would like to see what he can bring to the table just with his physical skill set and the fact that we talked about him a lot last offseason during camp and stuff. But he didn't see the field as much. I mean, obviously he was on special teams. He had a few plays on defense, but not. I would love to see what Tyler Owens can do. I hope that he can grab hold of it. But the safe bet's probably Percy Butler.
The safe bet, I would say, probably Percy, just given last year he did get snaps, right? And Tyler Owens, you didn't see him really on defense at all, except for preseason.
Right.
But we don't know how the training camp is going to go this time around. So that's what I would be willing to say. I would like you said, would like Tyler Owens, but safe to say Percy. What are you, Scott?
Yeah, I agree. Also, we're not discounting the other two running backs on the board there as well. I mean, both of them, Chris Rodriguez and McNichols, were great last year at times. Do you know what I mean? When they came in and they had to do things, it was good. It's a deep running back room, which is very interesting to see. But we did need to pick someone up, so that definitely makes it. But it seems like this fan base, especially in the social media, side are crowning Krosky Merritt as this, outstanding number one starting running back. And then you think, well, he's not even. We're wearing caps and shorts at the minute. Let's wait till we see training camp. Let's wait till we get to preseason. But safety is my biggest question mark because there will be a drop off to Reed's point from Jeremy Chin to Will Harris, and that worries me slightly.
Yes, it does. Now the next question from Tim Towner. Scott, is Cliff Kingsbury's replacement already on staff? If so,
Yes.
who is the front runner in your opinion?
I have four names. I remember this. I remember this question. I've wrote it down. In David Blau, he was knocked back for jobs elsewhere. Whether he comes in, what I really like, and you to your point in an earlier question, Kyle, is the way that we stack this coaching staff. From top to bottom, it is massive. I mean, even getting the new guy on special teams, who's a former special teams coordinator, so there's an instant replacement if Izzo goes elsewhere. Obviously, if we lose Cliff, you've got Tavita Pritchard there, who's been the QB coach for a while. You've got Brian Johnson, who's an already made coordinator, who's already here. Anthony Lynn's a former head coach. Does he step up into a coordinator role, which wouldn't be, it's not unheard of. It'd be pretty seamless, I think. So there's four names immediately who in-house who you could say either one of them could step up and do that job without a shadow of a doubt. And maybe it's about moving the deck chairs around and saying, right, well, if we give it to Tavita, then David Blau moves into that one, and so on and so on. But the fact is, it's not just about building depth in your team. It's about building depth in the coaching staff. And that's what we've got at the minute, which is fantastic to see.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think Brian Johnson would probably be the front runner in my personal opinion, given with his background in it. Anthony Lynn kind of allowing things to be placed where they were would obviously be another. But David Blau is the tricky one, right? That could be the ace up your sleeve in case there were other issues that arose. But I would say, Brian, just because of the background, the easy one is Anthony Lynn, just given former head coach. You know that he's not going to be blindsided by it. He can handle the workload of it, and it's not something that you can really poo-poo or shy away from. So, yeah, I do think that we have the Cliff Kingsbury replacement on the roster. The big question is, can the new OC and Anthony Lynn and others be able to run the offense similar to what Cliff did to allow Jaden and the offense to run as seamlessly as they did in that kind of up-tempo, forcing the defense to get tired out quickly down the field and have pivotal plays when necessary. And I think Brian Johnson or Anthony Lynn easily, and obviously David Blau, checked that box. Scott answered it perfectly.
The other thing is, like, if Cliff Kingsbury left somewhere, which one of those guys would he bring with him? I would imagine that it would be Blau.
True.
However, would Blau want to go with him knowing that he's already got a Jaden Daniels here? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if he goes to the Saints or wherever, like, let's just throw the Saints out there because I'm sure they'll be looking for a coach soon and a quarterback. Can't guarantee that this guy's going to be Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is already set. Like, you already got a pretty easy job. So would anybody want to go? And if they do, then who would step up? So in that scenario, I would think Brian Johnson or Anthony Lynn would be the best bet. Just, I mean, based off of their Dan Quinn guy. They're friends with Dan Quinn. It wasn't like a Cliff thing, but Cliff could maybe poach him. But I don't know. I like the idea of a young guy like Blau coming in there and proving his worth, you know?
Yep. And now the last
Or
question.
Pitcher. Yeah.
Last question to allow Scott to get to bed. It's late where he is.
It's all right, man. It's only 10 o'clock. It's all good.
So this from Tim Towner, Scott. Buy or sell? A comp for Krosky Merritt is Le'Veon Bell. What say you or someone else?
Ooh, I can't. So he's saying Le'Veon Bell is Krosky Merritt. I think we need to wait and see on that. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure who his comp is. Because we haven't got a tape. We haven't got anything out there that says what he did last year. It's not as if you can, a lot of these prospects and a lot of your breakdowns, Kyle, and others, you can go and look back and say, like, what did they do last season? What did they do the season before? You've got very little tape to look at. I mean, no one's looking at New Mexico tape, that's for sure. So I don't know. I don't know really what the comp is to it, Tim. I'm going to kind of play Teflon shoulders here and say I don't know is the answer to that. Could he be Le'Veon Bell? I hope so. I certainly do hope so. Especially if he can box like Le'Veon Bell, that'd be all right.
Dude, Le'Veon Bell's a monster. Yeah.
Yeah, just hope he doesn't tweet like him.
Yeah, true.
Adrian Peter, remember when he knocked? Did he fight? No, that was Frank Gore who fought Adrian.
Frank
Peterson,
Gore,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. Remember, it was funny because you would think usually Adrian Peterson has success fighting people that are smaller than him, like his son. So you'd think that. I love AP. He's a good guy.
I'll sell that only because Le'Veon Bell's biggest attribute was his size and his patience with his eyes. He was a very patient runner. You could always see him doing those kind of subtle steps behind his blockers to be able to find that hole. Am I going to put that on Krosky Merritt to do that right away? I don't think so. I think he has Anthony Lynn to help him in that regard. But I would say maybe Melvin Gordon is a comp that you could sign off on. Somebody that is probably not over the top in speed, but it kind of has that size to him, but is able to see things develop and shift away from it. It's hard to come with comps because everyone is obviously different, and we haven't seen this cat in the pro level. I know a lot of people will post what he did in college, and we have to acknowledge the fact that the blocking game in college that he possibly went against is going to be completely different to pros. You got some big MFers down there, and having that sort of space to move and maneuver might not be there for him at the next level. So you kind of have to find those holes, and that's what Le'Veon Bell was really good at doing. So am I going to put that on him? No, but I do think that this is somebody you can feel confident in with the coaching staff that we have provided. Given their job status, their title, they don't have too much on their plate, that they can really dive deep into this cat. And this is what I said in the pre-draft process. I want Anthony Lynn to be able to find those traits that he really enjoys and be able to progress him enough to be productive. And I think that that's what you could really feel confident in. The comps, I think, is something that we're all just trying to find something to get excited about, which you should be. But we do have to remember, this is a young man, got a lot to learn, and ready to see what he can do.
Yeah, I get the comparisons to an extent just because, like you talked about, the patience and the way that he hits holes. He's very always finding a way to get through a hole, whether that's, that clip of him turning sideways and gliding through the air like he was skateboarding. So I get that, and the size. Another person, hey, I mean, maybe Alfred Morris type. Hopefully, I mean, we would love if he could have an Alfred Morris type career, obviously, but it's tough to say with somebody who's picked in the 7th round, who Scott mentioned played a game of football last year and then a Shrine Bowl, so it's tough, but you do like what you see, and you can see elements of why he could be successful. But will he be? Who knows? Hopefully.
Who knows? All right, everybody, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Thank you to Bill Bonato. Thank you to Mike. Thank you to Aled. Thank you to Arch. Thank you to Scott for submitting a question. Thank you to the Colonel. We appreciate you guys. Sorry if we offended anybody with Reed's jokes, of course. Just take that with a grain of salt. It's Reed, and you don't know what's going on in that old noggin of his.
I didn't even say anything.
Always enjoy these You Got Jokes segments. But before we get out of here, Scott, you just like to plug your social media handle and your show, of course. And I wanted to say what the unfortunate part was in the comms log episode, they didn't show you giving the 1 Point Safety show a shout out, you know?
I had about 10 shout outs to do as well. I was like, you know what? I'll do the bunker. I'll do you guys. I'll do dudes. I'll do everybody. And it was like, no, you've literally got 40 seconds. I was like, oh, okay, right. So it's timed. But yeah, you can find me at ScottyH84 on X. I'm on the 1 Point Safety show. We go at 4 p.m. Eastern on a Thursday or 9 p.m. UK time. Also on the Bleeding Burgundy podcast twice a week. And I've just started writing, and so have other people as well from the Commander's Log. So go and have a look at bleedingburgundy.com. There's a lot of WordPress writers out there who've been writing articles for us. So it's going to be something that you can get your teeth into over summer if you want a bit of more Commander's news.
Yeah, I remember we started that a while ago. And we ended up
we just stopped.
Yeah,
I like doing it.
It's hard, man. It's hard though. Yeah,
I had the dumpster fire files.
Yes, and it was all on Snyder. Yeah.
Those were funny.
Yeah, it was. And it's just funny that they didn't allow you to put the plug in there for the comms log episode, but the people that run their shows and the beat reporters can upload the stuff that they get from doing content for the Commanders to their own personal YouTube channels to be able to promote themselves, which I don't know. It's just all very weird to me on how those parameters work, Scott. I wish they would have given you that shout out. But regardless,
just another one of life's simple pleasures ruined by meddling bureaucracy.
I'm telling you, access is worth more than gold, apparently. And,
absolutely.
Once you get to that point, you can do whatever you want. But boys, I can't thank you enough for joining me. Thank you to anybody. You're a freaking champion if you made it this far. Scott, we love you, man. We know that you do a bunch of the shows around, and you're an awesome dude. Family man, work hard. And it's always a blast to be able to get to see you. Hopefully, Reed will finally be able to come out to week 1.
I hope so. You better be.
Maybe one of these days. You never know. I might not exist. I might be AI generated.
That's what Lockhart's been saying, that you're AI generated.
I am AI generated, actually. Has he been saying that? Because
yes.
Great minds.
Yes.
I basically do kind of have the mind of a knee doctor, pretty much. So that makes sense to me as well that he would say that.
I don't get the reference.
Great minds.
But it is
because he's a doctor.
I got it.
Because he's a
physician. All right, everybody.
It's the same thing, dude. Kyle, you got it.
You're right. Come on. Whatever.
Joe Biden's a doctor.
That's true. All right, everybody. We'll see you again next on Wednesday, possibly, or sooner. Not 100% sure, but I'll get you guys updated throughout the week. All right, everybody. I'm Kyle.
I'm Michael Hall.
I'm Scott.
And you guys have a great week. Enjoy your weekend to wrap this up, and we'll see you guys next one. All right, Washington football. Woo! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.